Oh, thank you so much. So, you're welcome, attendees, participants. Just want to welcome you very warmly. I'm going to be asking, if you don't mind, our dear guest speaker, and the rest of the audience, can we just give it just about 5 minutes more, just to get people to log? I know people are joining very, very quickly. So just about 5 more minutes to get more people so they don't, we don't want them to miss any part of what we're going to be discussing about. So thank you. 5 minutes.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Granted. Okay. Thank you so much. All right then. Good to go. I just want to welcome you all once again. Thank you, all the attendees. The numbers are climbing. It's just been amazing. I think today's the 4th day. Honestly, it's just been so beautiful. I feel so blessed, so honored, with all our speakers. Mrs. Funke Fowler-Amba, we welcome you once again.
Thank you.
It's amazing to have you here. All the attendees, welcome. I know you're joining from all over the world, so I'm not going to ask you where. Funke, I trust you. She's out there. We are all joining from different places. I know from the UK, I'm in the US right now, some are in Nigeria. Some people have joined from all over the world. So I just welcome you all very, very, very warmly. And so what's your day been like? Everybody, can I just get that answer in the chat box? What's your day been like? Funke, what's your day? What has your day been like today?
Fantastic. Every day we're alive, we're grateful.
We're grateful.
It's been a great day.
Oh, that's great. My day has been great. Yeah, all great days. Busy, 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 productive. Grateful to God. Tiring but fulfilling. I love that. So excited for Mrs. Amba to speak. Great. Your day has been awesome. That's fantastic. I thought some people would say, oh, with the Naira being 950 to the dollar, that's $1. But see, that's the beautiful thing about us in Nigeria. We're resilient people. Oh, your day has been stressful, but yeah, Dr. Nwani, Mrs. Unbelievable. It ended on a good note. Oh, thank God. We thank God for life. And it's just amazing to have everyone here. So we're going to start with a very simple quiz. Something I do all the time. I don't know about you, my listeners. I try to keep my brain active. I have several apps that I use, that just cognitive games that just gets you going. These games get you going. So I want to give us a little quiz. Some people will do Sudoku every day, crossword puzzles. It's good to just keep it going, keep our minds and our brains going. So very simple quiz. I want everybody to take part in this quiz. All right, be ready. There's a prize for the winner, even though the prize might just be a prayer, a word of prayer. Okay, go on. Get ready for the quiz. Excuse me. I just want you to put it in the chat box. Just put the answers into the chat box. Okay, so number 1 question. Lovely one. The Eiffel Tower is located in Benin City. True or false? Are you sure? I can say the false. Let me see if to say true. If you say true, I'm going to say, please log off. Please log out of this meeting. So where is the Eiffel Tower located? Who's going to tell us where the Eiffel Tower is located? Go up. Paris. Yes. The romantic city of the world. That's beautiful. All right, the second question is, what is the capital city of Canada? That one sometimes can be a bit confusing. What is the capital city of Canada? Yeah, I can see the answers. Yeah. can see different answers. Okay. I can see, I can't see. Aha, okay, yes. Ottawa, Ontario, Quebec. So which one is it? Can we put up the answer? Ottawa, isn't it? I believe it is. Yeah? Absolutely. Abayomi, can we just always, aha. Can you just always type in the answer? I know you have it on another sheet, but good class. Good class. You see, you can't be with an educationist and not be ready to do some. So, what does HTTP stand for in a website address? Hypertext Transfer Protocol, High-Tech Transfer Process, Hyperlink Transfer Technology, Hypertext Technology Process. Hey. People are checking Google or what's it, ChatGPT. Hey. Amazing class. Honestly, this is the kind of audience that I like. Absolutely correct. I wonder if anybody would have chosen C, which has no P in it, really. That's good. Okay, I like that. I'll be honest, I don't know. So it's actually A, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTTP. Thank you. I like the ones that said I don't know. That's why we're here. And that's why I love quizzes, because it just widens your knowledge. It's not just, learning about just one area. You just have vast knowledge in different things. So number 4 question, which animal has the longest lifespan? Is it the elephant, the blue whale, giant tortoise, or the bald eagle? So old that is now bald. Okay, good. Some people said C, some said B. No idea. I love that. Blue whale. The whale is just there under the sea. Tortoise. All right, beautiful. The answer is C, the giant tortoise. They can be alive. The lifespan is so, in fact, I would like, Abayami, could you check how long they can live? It's just, you can have a tortoise that's been there for 100 years. So the lifespan is just endless. Next question, please, number 5. I don't want you to show all the questions at once. Over a century, absolutely, over a century. Number 5, oh, I wish you won't show everything at once, because people will go and check. Who won the inaugural Best African Music Performance category at the 2024 Grammys? Who won? No idea. I knew Aduke does not know. All my pastors here, we will not know. But it's Tyler. It was very painful because our own lovely, awesome artists did not make it. Tyler did. I think Tyler is from South Africa. Yes, absolutely. That's good. I actually put different, questions from different genre. I don't want just one way. I just want to be current, to know the history and the present. Who was the first female prime minister of the UK? I put this because of our UK crowd. Everybody knows that one. And that, see, Abayomi, I told you, is Angela Merkel, not Angel. So it's Angela. But the answer is what? A, Margaret Thatcher. Lovely. Number 7 question. A transformational leader typically focuses on maintaining the status quo. True or false? False. Okay, people are saying false. So what does a transformational leader focus on, though? Can you put in the answer? What does a transformational leader focus on? So they don't maintain the status. Change. Lovely. A transformational leader focuses, they're very inspirational and they bring significant, not even just ordinary small change, significant change in any environment where they are. And honestly, it's for me the best form of leadership, because they inspire people, but they bring significant change by, especially challenging the people they lead. So they're not laissez-faire, they're not servant leaders, they're not, oh, sorry, I'll do it for you. How are you? They would care for you, but they also hold you to very, very high standards. So that's the transformational leader. Number 8 question. Which CEO is known for turning around the fortune of Apple? Tim Cook, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs? Very good. Very, very good. Smart class. Number 9, which country won the just concluded AFCON? Go on. Some people are saying Nigeria. We won by force, by fire, by force. We won. Côte d'Ivoire. Amazing. And the very last question. Should have been Nigeria. Someone said should have been Nigeria anyway. So identify this famous landmark. Who knows what this thing is standing there? Who knows what it is? Some said C. I want you to identify what this is and then tell us where it's cited. What is it? What's it called? Ọ̀pá Ọ̀rọ̀yọ̀ Ilé-Ifẹ̀. Someone said it's something in Olu, Imo State. Are you kidding me? Ọ̀pá Ọ̀rọ̀míyàn Ilé-Ifẹ̀. Amazing. That's very good. Very smart class. Very smart class. All right. Let's do things like this from time to time. You see, some of us that are not in education, we get too serious. Life becomes so serious. But just do crossword puzzles, do Sudoku, get some games. There's this particular game I use, Elevate. It's a game. It will test your memory, processing, language. Just do those things to just, keep yourself, on top of your game. So you're welcome once again. You can put down the quiz now. You love crossword puzzles. Yeah, amazing. So yesterday, I welcome you all once again. Yesterday, yeah, Funke says we get so serious indeed. Yeah, because life can be very serious. So we just go with the flow. Let's just, chill. And even right now, I'm going to say that, you know what? It's night in Nigeria. I think it's about 6 o'clock in Nigeria or so. Just get your cup of what do you want to drink? Maybe milk or chamomile tea because of the situation in Nigeria. In the UK, get your cup of tea. In America, coffee drinking. Get your coffee. Put your feet up. Put your feet up. Let your hair down, and let's have fun. So I gave an assignment yesterday. Excuse me. And I asked everyone listening yesterday. I said, I would like you to ask at least one person, one of your leaders on your team, in your organization, in whatever you are involved in, anyone that is a leader there. I said, go and ask by today, latest tomorrow. I would like you to ask that person, who is going to lead after you? We do not ask that question. We assume that the person you put in whatever position will be there. We do not ask ourselves that question. It could be it's about the key roles and positions in your organization. Whatever organization, whatever institution, it could be just the head of department. It could be, let's say in a church, it could be the head of choir or the head of technical group. Ask everyone that holds a position that's a key role. It could be your finance person. Because when we talk about developing leadership pipelines or we talk about succession planning, immediately people are thinking, oh, who's going to replace the CEO? Absolutely not. One person can never make a success of a company, not even an iconic entrepreneur or the best CEO ever. Success is achieved through a team. And my question is, those on your team, are you asking them who is going to lead next? In my organization, it's part of your performance management and appraisal as a leader. Who are you grooming? Reassure them as they are grooming someone else. They themselves are being groomed for higher positions. So far, they're doing their work well. So they shouldn't feel threatened. And today, I have an educationist with me, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about our industry, because I found out that in our industry, because it's not a business, we don't look at it as a business, yet it is. It is a business. It's just that it's a social kind of business. We run educational institutions not to maximize profit, but it's a business. And that is why, and it's not just education, as I've said over and over, right now, it's only the banking sector that has some kind of stipulation, and it's the law. They must have a succession plan. How many of our industries, how many of our companies? Because when you have a succession plan, that shows you understand corporate strategy. It shows that you developing a leadership pipeline, shows you understand that you are running a serious business. If anything happens to anybody in a key role, or to you as the overall head, what happens to this company you've put so much into? And that is what, again, the reason for this whole summit. We've spoken to amazing, people. We've had some amazing speakers. And one thing that resonates, all of them, Mrs. Awoshika yesterday, she talked a lot about being true to yourself. She talked about values and being true to yourself. As you run that organization, are you being true to yourself? Are you a role model for the others to follow? Do they see you, how structured you are, not only in your character and the integrity but do they see how you run your company? Do they see the attention to detail? Do they see the structures you put in? Do they respect it? Are you modeling effective leadership to the people you work with? Be true to yourself, she says. And to me, that's talking about self-awareness. These days, we talk a lot about social emotional competencies. Are you socially, emotionally aware? If you're not, how can your staff be? We say, nemo dat quod non habet. You cannot give what you do not have. So leaders, actually, I don't want this to just be, we just come in with we just go, nothing happens. If I was to take a poll, I'm sure that 90% of us did not go anywhere to ask that question that I said we should ask yesterday, which is, who is going to lead next? So what's the point? This is not just something just to have fun. All of the speakers, myself, will not put this together if we're not hoping that this will impact the listeners in one way, shape, or form. So I welcome Mrs. Funke Fowler-Amba, one of the most genuine people I know. She's so warm. So genuine. Honestly, you're just amazing. I remember Vivian Fowler when I was actually still it was during my youth corps, and I was living with my aunt who's passed on now, Justice Yetunde Idowu, and her daughter was attending Vivian Fowler. And that was when I really got to know about the school. But what fascinated me about the school was your mom, because your mom, she actually, I think she started as a lawyer, or I know she was a bencher, and then she pivoted into education. So when I was going to pivot, she was my standard. She was my model. I was like, wow, so it can be done. She moved from law to education. So I started to follow her. She doesn't know me, but I'm one of her greatest fans from afar. And then as God would have it, I then met you. So I just transferred that love to you. Amazing woman. Just honestly, just this beautiful role model. You know, there she's the lady, and everything about her I just loved. And I see you are really a replica of Mrs. Fowler, and I'm so happy and honored to have you here today. I'm going to read your bio so people can get to know you a bit better. Funke Fowler-Amba obtained her primary school education at the University of Lagos Staff School, Akoka, Yaba, Lagos. She completed her secondary school education at Micklefield School, Seaford in Sussex. In 1984, she obtained her international baccalaureate from Brilliant Mont International School, Lausanne, I hope I called that properly, Switzerland. Olufunke earned her degrees from the University of Wisconsin, United States of America. She is an alumna of Harvard School of Education and has a postgraduate degree in education leadership. Funke has over 20 years of banking experience. She started her career at the Chevy Chase Bank, Bethesda in Maryland, USA, as a chargeback coordinator. In 1989, she moved to Cresta Bank, now SunTrust Bank in Virginia, USA, as an operations supervisor, and later rose to the position of the branch manager and vice president operations. Wow. In 2009, she left all that and she returned to Nigeria and joined Vivian Fowler Memorial College for Girls as one of the school's directors. That's the prayer of every school owner. I'm sure people are doing like this, Father, make this happen for me as well. Has a great passion for the girl child, and Vivian Fowler Memorial College for Girls was just a perfect platform for her to keep this passion alive. She is a member of the following bodies: Chairman Board of Governors of Canon James Peirce College in Iwaya, Lagos. She's a board member of Greenwood House School, Parkview Estate, Ikoyi. She's a board member of Lagos State Teachers Award and board member of APEN, Association of Private Educators. In Nigeria, her hobbies include reading, conducting trainings, basketball, and American football. I'm like, what? A lady like, oh my goodness. Very interesting to find out, you know, other things about you. Thank you so much, Kate. It's an honor to have you here today. So everyone is waiting to hear a bit more about you. I'm going to start by asking you, can you tell us a little bit about your leadership journey so far?
Okay, thank you so much for having me on. We're also proud of you and what you're doing in our space. And my mother is watching. So, yeah, she's watching. So. And I also want to appreciate everybody in my space, in the education space. It's not an easy space, but they're dynamic women and men in that space, just making incredible changes. My journey is a bit different in the sense that I've been back for about 13, 14 years. My leadership journey, as you know, there are three kinds of businesses in the world. There's a quick business, which by the business is more like a fast food. And then there's an innovative business, which is like the Apple store. And they're churning different Apple phones. And then there's a premium business. I came from a quick and innovative business. With the premium business, whatever you invest is what you're going to get. And this is how the education space was for me. Sorry, I'm not sure if I lost you. Are we good?
We're good. We're good. Just
okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So my journey has been actually quite enlightening in the sense that it's been very insightful and learning. My journey since I've been back in Nigeria started by being an apprentice and a personal assistant to a dynamic leader, Chief Dr. Mrs. Leila Fowler, MFR, and she's the founder of Vivian Fowler Memorial College for Girls. So it was also a very humbling experience because I had to sort of learn so many things again. More or less, I remember going around with her and people would say, oh, you follow your mother everywhere, because I had to learn. So my leadership experiences sort of evolved over time. And that is what my initial journey was like, because I was an apprentice. I had to learn. I'm coming from a business space, not an education space. So I had to basically go back to school, understand that I needed native intelligence, which I did not have, and emotional intelligence, which my mother had a lot of. So through that, I sort of regrouped on my leadership skills. So that's how I've been one of those that have emerged over time. In the process of my leadership, I had to understand that I couldn't outshine my master, more or less, for me to learn. So that has been my leadership journey so far.
That's amazing. You know, this is the second, because we had Mrs. Toyi Bakare of SAS Textile, I think on Monday, and she used the exact words that she was an apprentice, you know, with her mom. So she learned very quickly, very early on in life, how to run the kind of business that they do, which is textiles, selling textiles. She learned a lot of things like customer care, you know, from her mom and all that. And today, you know, they're doing just great things. So you joined Vivian Fowler. You've learned a lot from Chief Mrs. Leila Fowler. Have you been able to add anything to what she had built? Because she had built such an awesome brand. And then you are part of it. You've brought your experience from the US, from the UK, from Switzerland, all those places, and all the industries you've been in. Were you able, what have you been able to bring to the table?
Obviously, it was very difficult because you're stepping into shoes that you probably may never fit into. But I think it was, she had laid a really good foundation. So it was bridging the old and the new. But I think what I brought in was a more HR-driven company. You mentioned that sometimes we don't run the school as a business. We're a bit emotional. So it was more or less HR-driven and leadership power-driven as well, so that we're able to bring in structures into place that will translate into a business that's able to follow the guidelines that you need to be able to succeed and to also live some kind of legacy as well.
Okay, so I like the focus on leadership, you know, because obviously I'm sure mom is proud of the fact that you're able to add something. That's the whole essence of having the younger ones, take over. So that focus on HR and on leadership. And I would then ask you, first of all, you were an apprentice to Chief Mrs. Leela Fowler. Now, apart from just watching her, are there other ways that you can, that you were able to develop your leadership to become the leader you are today? So you watched her, you learned at her feet. How else did you develop your leadership?
I think that what was most significant for me was knowing the business. Luckily, with my experience working at a bank, when I was part of a management training program, you started off in the mailroom before they gave you a branch. So coming in, I had to learn the business. I worked in the hostel. I went to Mile 12 shopping. I went to OKRA. I understood how the shopping worked. I taught in the school. There were times I taught literature. So I think it was learning to take ownership of my work. Having a vision was very key. Being accountable for my actions and decisions as well. And most importantly, developing myself. Understanding that the space I was in required me to be a life learner. I had to continuously learn because it was a space that was constantly changing, constantly innovating, and you needed to be in that frame of mind to be able to lead people, because a lot of it was, yes, you learn to delegate and things like that. But I think also something else that I did that, my mother was a bit of a workaholic. So I also learned to delegate and take care of my schedule instead of my schedule taking care of me.
That's beautiful. So from what you're saying, and again, I'm trying to link it to what all the other speakers had said. I can see you joining some of the ways you've been taught, shadowing your mom, and then I'm hearing job rotation, because when you joined, you were going to the to carrying to buy stuff, which is part of what you needed to learn, going to the hostel, so you were being moved around.
Absolutely.
You were being moved around, which
Absolutely.
is an amazing way to develop a leader that's going to be a successor in any way. So that's amazing. I've heard you talk about leadership development, and I believe you were doing your master's at some point in time. Have you?
Yes, we're not done yet. We're at it.
That's a lifelong learner. So when you say lifelong learning, you are modeling it. You are modeling. And again, that is what we should do, because our staff watch. I say to people, I think I started my PhD at age 48. I didn't finish until 50 something. PhD that people would have done in their 20s, but model lifelong learning. And because of that, I know I can't even count how many other people, some of the leaders in my organization who have gone back to school. So I love the fact that you're a lifelong learner, you are modeling that, and that becomes part of your DNA at Vivian Fowler. So that's it's really good. You also mentioned the leadership, part of the leadership skills you developed. Delegation. A lot of us just cannot delegate. You want it to be perfect. We've mentioned that most of the time, I've given the example where you go for a training or a program or a conference, and you see, especially I've seen it with a lot of school leaders. They're on their phones. Oh, they're calling me. Oh, and I'm wondering, what do you think you're doing? This is not, it's not, you should be able to empower people, train them, let them take over that. But a lot of times we're still so involved, we micromanage, therefore we're not developing leaders. So I hear you talk about delegation, and I think that is absolutely key in developing other leaders. Now, we're going to go into developing a pipeline of leaders. It's all about, how do we build and develop this pipeline of leaders? How do we ensure that for each key role, And each key position, there is someone. Sometimes exits are planned. It could be retirement. It could be, expansion. So you're going to, put people in other places. Sometimes vacancies are sudden. I've referred once or twice to the very sad news about Herbert Wigwe. That was sudden. But thank God for the structure in the banking sector. They've been able to do something immediately. And so it's so important and it's imperative that we continue to develop our leaders. So we build what we call a solid bench strength. You like American football. Some of us, because of my boys,
your son.
we like soccer. And at the end of the day, there's no team on earth that would not have a solid bench strength. Because when something happens on the field, immediately, you're not going to start training the person. You have to have that, that set of people well trained to take over. How come in our companies we don't think that way? And we just have an idea. We know, okay, this person can take over. Kike is good, but we're not training them. So my next question would be, how are you adequately preparing people for the different key roles? First of all, maybe you could mention one or two key roles in your organization. And then can you tell us how you are developing people to fill those positions?
Okay, first of all, I'll say that I just learned this recently. And when I say recently, in the last few years, many of us, like I mentioned before, we're not HR driven. You should only be hiring two kinds of people: people who are experts in the position and people who have the ability to learn on the job and become experts in the position. So that's where some of us, go wrong. In that process, when you do that, you're able to have a talent pool. And I think, especially in our space, we do not cross-train people because what usually happens, not just in our space, in any space, when people get the knowledge that they need, they feel they can be on their own. So it is important that you cross-train people in the sense that, everybody, you identify that talent pool and you're constantly training. And I'll give you an example. I was very frustrated in my space because sometimes you say the same thing over and over again. But I realized too, one thing recently. It is one thing for people to know the theory part of leadership, but many of us do not provide case studies for people. During the case studies, people are able to translate better what their role is. And that's one of the things I've started working on, which is more of the case study and accountability. For instance, what we do with our management team now is that we meet more regularly. And for the week, we go over a case study, maybe something we did not do right. What should you have done? And it's amazing. Through that, you're developing people. So that's one of the things that we're doing is, making sure people are taking ownership. So in our management role as a school, for instance, you may be the head of department, but your role as the head of department means you're in charge of the whole school. So what we do is we rotate. We have about 12 heads of departments, and every day, 2 heads of departments are basically the heads of school. So they have to look at the flags, they have to go to the kitchen, they have to do everything a head of school is supposed to do. So that's another way, another tool we're using to cross-train.
Lovely. I'd like to know more. I'm really enjoying that. So cross-training, I've heard you talk about job rotation, cross-training. You make sure that so we call it sometimes systems thinking. So they're not just thinking of their section, they're looking at the school as a whole. I like the idea. You're not just thinking of it, but you go out. What do the flags look like at the racket? Do they need to be changed? What's happening in the kitchen?
Absolutely.
So just giving them that holistic, overview of what's happening in your, so that's beautiful. Okay, so to make it maybe more specific. when you do your trainings, what kind of trainings do you offer? Leadership trainings? Do you have specific trainings that every leader must go through? I like the idea of the case study as well.
Well, I think, first of all, I want to say something. Many people don't believe in training because they believe that when you train, people move on. But what we have to understand is that we make the space more competitive, because if people are trained, then there's more competition within the space. Now, it's very important to engage your employees. You first of all find out, what are they lacking? So you have to more or less you have to more or less understand what kind of training is needed. So the kind of trainings that we give, yes, we do external trainings where we invest. We do a lot of webinars. What we do now is there's some associations that offer development. We enroll everybody because it's a very minimal fee. So every single teaching staff and academic staff, non-academic staff is enrolled in those sort of teachings. So we give a lot of feedback, and also in our trainings, I think what is wrong with a lot of development is that we don't assess where a manager is. We do as, same shoe size for everybody, and it doesn't work like that. Everybody's at a different level. So it's important for you to also get feedback from those that they're teaching. We get a lot of feedback from the children to ensure that they're being taught the way they need to be taught, to see what kind of training is needed and that sort of thing.
That's amazing.
So it's important for you to also foster a supportive culture for your staff, because when you do that, you're encouraging them to want to learn more as well.
That's lovely. We say that succession planning or developing a pipeline of leaders is actually, you cannot separate it from leadership development. They're like Siamese twins. You can't, because if I'm planning for succession in any way, then it's because I've also been training those people. And I believe that when training, as you have said, is part of the DNA of an organization, when an organization is a professional learning community, it actually widens your talent pool, because you find out so many people, because you're training. It should be just when you also talk about the supportive community, that's what it is. Because when you're a professional learning community and it's a supportive environment, every little mistake is not like a death sentence. You can actually try. The management knows that you are actually learning. Learning sometimes, experience sometimes is trial and error. But when we're too harsh and too hard on people, then people don't want to learn. They don't want to make any mistake. So professional learning community is what I hear, because you invest a lot in training your people. Then also, I believe that when you've identified certain people, managers, as you said, you are then also giving them some individualized trainings, because you're going to be putting them in position. I think that's amazing. You also talked about the tests, assessing where your leaders are, like a competency-based assessment. We want to know where their strengths are, where the skill gaps are.
Absolutely.
So and cater to those gaps. Amazing. I hope we're learning. All right. Before we take a quick poll, I want to ask, have you ever had a need to bring someone from outside? So from what I hear you say, you actually do develop your internal talents. You focus on people within and you develop them, and then you promote them. Now, have you had any cause to bring in an external person to lead a department or the school?
Absolutely. I think we were looking for a head teacher about maybe 14 years ago when I joined, and we didn't have very good success with that. It was a time of transition, when we were looking towards being more on the global stage. We needed to identify what kind of school did we want. We wanted to work towards being a STEM school. Robotics was very strong and is still strong in our space. So we looked outside for that kind of talent. And it worked out well. She's been with us for about 13 years now as head of school. And I think she fitted into what we were looking for. Not that the people internally may not have been able to do what she's doing, but I think it was very important that as we're transitioning, giving the baton over to me, I also had to make sure that we had somebody who could see the vision a bit clearer, who was not in our current space. It needed a different lens.
I love that. So in bringing someone in, you had to look at certain things. And I like the fact that you were futuristic about it. You looked at the things, you wanted to get into the STEM space, more into technology and all that. So you then, because oftentimes what happens is that when we bring in people from outside, they don't understand our culture. They haven't been, taught and raised and groomed by us. Sometimes there's the mismatch of DNA. They're just not.
Absolutely.
And when you look at your vision and you know where you're going, and then you employ not just for the present, you employ for the future. You looked at the potential of the person you employed, and you could see this person can help us get into the space that you wanted to get into. That's amazing. She's been with you for 13 good years. So that's a perfect match. That's a very, a very good match. All right. So now I'm going to launch a poll very quickly. I want to see what we're learning, or if you know how you say, oh, that's just good stuff, but you're not really taking it in. So, so we're going to launch a poll, and I want to see how we're learning. Abayami, can you please put up the poll? Good. Let's see how we're doing. All right. So, first question. And this is not just for our guest speaker, it's for everyone on the call. How involved are the senior leaders in your organization, institution, company in mentoring and developing potential successors in your organization? How involved? Very involved, somewhat involved. I expected that, and I think that's the truth. Because first of all, we even need to understand how to identify potential successors. So if we haven't done that, you can't then say that they're very involved in something you don't even have a framework for. So somewhat involved, not at all involved, very involved. So good, fair enough. By the time I'll tell you about the mastermind I'm launching soon, and we will be able to learn exactly how, step by step, to develop our leadership pipeline, to identify our potential successors, starting from the hiring, as Mrs. Funke Amba said, knowing who to hire and how to retain them and how to develop them and how to get them to go into the right positions. I'll talk to you about that at the very end. The second question is, what do you think will most motivate your potential successors? Money and other benefits? We are Nigerians, though. We know that money is important to people. Training and development. Yes, people love to be trained. It brings that intrinsic motivation when they know they have access to training and you are concerned about their development, their growth, their advancement. A clear career path, it is so key. I learned this on the job. So many people want to know what next. They want to know where they're going to be in 3 years. They want to know where they're going to be in 5 years in your company. But most of the time in our companies, it's like an HR document. No, you can't keep people in the dark. They want to know. If not, other people will offer them positions that they might actually have gotten to maybe in the next 1 year or two. So a clear career path is important Having a clear and compelling vision is absolutely non-negotiable. We talked about that, I think, on the very first day of the summit. Did he mention that? If I don't know where you are going, why should I follow you? And if where you're going is not compelling, why should I come with you on a journey that you're not even clear about? So I think the answer, we all got it, is all of the above. When you have all these things in place, you're able to motivate your potential successors. Brilliant. And the final question is, have you set up a succession management team to oversee your succession plans and development of internal talent in your organizations? I thought this would be the answer. And the answer for most of us is no. Sometimes we have an idea. Let me tell you what most research says it, and I know research, most of you can, research doesn't lie. What happens is that we all have a list, and most of the time, the list is in our minds. We know if this person goes, this person can take over. If this person is not there, this person might fit in. But actually being structured about a succession plan, about how to develop a leadership pipeline, how to identify those people, the programs for those people, how to evaluate how they're doing and review their performance. Hey, a lot of us haven't. And I'm not surprised about the result here, which says no. Thank you all for being so truthful. That's the end of the poll. We are learning. Amazing. Amazing class, amazing class. All right. So at this point, I would like to ask you, what are some of the difficulties you have encountered in trying to develop leaders and having this pipeline, this set of people that you know can fit into positions that are key? Are there, challenges you've encountered?
Yes, I think we all need to understand that in this space, because of the curriculum, we're all going to run into challenges. The curriculum for the foundation of school, the secondary level, the university level, does not teach a lot of futuristic thinking. It does not teach a lot of strategic thinking. So as you're training, there are going to be frustrations. And this is where the native and emotional intelligence that I learned from my mother comes in. I'm coming in from a place where you're supposed to know what you need to have. So it requires you, most importantly, to be a bit flexible with your emotions and your behavior. And that's the only way you're going to achieve your objectives. You can be very rigid, because most people in this setting have an innate talent, but is not tapped into until they're trained and there's that exposure. So you find that there's a fixed mindset and a growth mindset fighting each other. And it is very key that you're patient, because the most important thing is to also understand that character counts, that sometimes the character of the individual is probably going to be more lasting, more faithful to you than maybe somebody who's overqualified. So yes, we do run into problems, but it also boils down to continuous training. Once you build a learning culture in your space, the steps may be a bit slow, but you would see that it's building a culture. Once you're able to build that learning culture, yes, we do. And every leader is going to experience dark moments. And what makes you unique as a leader is that you're able to be stable in the middle of the storm, and also to lead the way. John Maxwell talks about a good leader leads the way, shows the way. So yes, those are the frustrations that we do experience. But we also have to understand that our leadership cannot only be based on theory. It is based on a lot of soft skills. So one of the things we're doing in our space now is that we're reading a book, Good to Great. Everybody has to read it, because we're finding that the reading culture is almost obsolete, almost dead. So I think that there's nobody that's going to say, because, many times a lot of these things that we're talking about, a lot of these HR-driven things, they're just like democracy. You cannot import things into this culture fully. It doesn't quite work because there are cultural barriers, there's social barriers, and they're also, business. It's not a very a fruitful place to do business at times. So we have a lot of things that we're dealing with. So the main thing is to build a culture so that even in the middle of you not having all the tools you have, you're seeing people develop.
Beautiful. Lovely. As we were talking, took my mind back to years ago when I just started Meadowhall. And I remember that I had an amazing head of school that started. In fact, I was a lawyer then. She was the educationist. Now, she was absolutely wonderful with teaching. The leadership part was where the challenge was. And it then also happened again. I got another head of school. Amazing, absolutely wonderful with her technical skills, but the leadership part. So, and that happens a lot in so many industries, especially the education industry, because we promote people based on their technical skills.
Absolutely.
You've been for 20 years, you become the head of school. Failing to understand that they're just different skills. Your technical skills, your knowledge of education is totally different from your knowledge of leadership. In the emotional intelligence you need, the delegation, the decision making, and all that. And so I'm using that as an example because, sometimes people think you just got to where you are. No, we made mistakes. I made mistakes. So I learned, what to do. And how do we develop leaders? All these things we've been talking about. And also bringing those leaders around what we call your invisible leadership table. They hang out with you. Those people that you are training, that you are grooming for succession. Let them spend time with you. Let them in and out of school. Let them rub off on them. Bring them around that leadership table. Let them hang out. Let them tap your brains. Let them understand, what leadership is like. And that's when we pour into them. And I think, because as you said, you can't import these things. My school or my business is different from yours. Our culture is different from yours. So wherever they're coming from, it's different. So they need to really get you and get your mind. And it's about bringing them around you. And another lesson I learned, is sometimes leaders, you focus on your own team, right? John Maxwell called it the Pareto principle, 80-20 rule. So you have your own 20 that you're focusing on that will give you 80% of the result. What we fail to do is the 20 we're focusing on, they should be focusing on their own 20.
Absolutely.
They should be focusing on developing their own. So usually we focus on our 20, and then we're not holding that 20% accountable to also focus on their own 20% so that it goes down the line. So you have people who are well trained by you, but then there's no successor after them because they have not gone on to train the other people. So I think leaders must learn to develop other leaders. So so many lessons, to be honest, that learned all through the years. So
well, I also wanted to add that we also have to understand that the transition between teacher to middle management, it is so confusing. I call it an identity issue. So a lot of times where we get confused in who we choose is that individual who is in leadership still sees themselves as a teacher. So when you talk about influencing the 20%, they're more interested in doing what, or they're not interested, they just don't know the know-how. So we have to be very careful that whoever moves from being a teacher to a middle management teacher, they get a lot of foundational leadership training before they move on. Because if not, they're basically just a head girl or a head boy.
I like that. It's so true. For me, for example, I would not even be putting the middle leaders around my leadership table. I'm talking about the senior leaders.
Yes,
now,
absolutely.
20% of the senior leaders should be the middle leaders.
Absolutely.
So you, the 20% top leaders, you in turn should be grooming those middle.
Absolutely.
Because there's no way you can't, there's no way you're going to have everybody around you. It's not possible as the owner, as the leader of the school. But I think that's where we miss it. We train people, but we're not holding them accountable to train their own 20, to bring their own middle leaders, the other people around their own leadership table, so that it passes on, the knowledge.
Well, a lot of people don't take stock of, it's like owning a store. You're supposed to take stock. And many people do not understand that as a leader, you're taking stock to see, okay, what have I run out of? What do my people need? What do I need to replace it with? Where do I need to grow? So it's really that a lot of people do not understand that part of leadership is taking stock of those people you're leading, understanding you compare it to a store.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's part of talent management. We don't manage our talents. We don't know who they are. We don't know their strengths. You can't, so managing the stock is identifying your strengths and building them. It's just amazing.
I also wanted to add, since we're talking about leadership, there are also a lot of dormant leaders, because what happens is that some leaders overshadow or hide the potential. So you're going to find that your retention, people exiting from your company is out of frustration because they've not been able to develop. So also when you're looking at your talent pool for leadership, it is important that you don't miss a potential leader.
Amazing. This it ties exactly with what Mrs. Yemisi Edu of FCMB said the other day. She said, when I asked maybe some of the issues they'd had and all that, she said one of the issues they've had is knowing that someone is good, but not knowing the right time to put them in that position, so that person that they have been training really gets frustrated and then just leaves the company.
Absolutely.
So that's exactly when you have these dormant people, they're good, they're good.
Yes,
they're part of your succession plan in a way. Again, because they're not very structured sometimes with because if you have a structured succession plan, you're not going to tell the person you're the one taking over from that person.
Absolutely.
They're not going to do that. But because you're training me and you're bringing me around your leadership table, and all that, I know that you have some plans for me. And we say in succession planning that you do not focus on designations, you focus on development. So the person knows that they're being developed. They don't know for what position, but they know they're being developed. So by the time you're doing that and you're doing your competency-based assessment, the person sees that they're moving up, you are rewarding them for, getting better, improving themselves. Really, it should keep that staff with you. But because we're not doing that, and then you train them, and then when even the positions come in, what happens? We bring other people in.
Absolutely.
And we lose them. So, and it's a waste of our investment,
Yes. Absolutely.
All right. Oh, I don't want this to end. Just one more question before we round up. So, Funke, we've talked a lot about the things that have made our organizations successful after, for me, the mercy of God. I would like to know, and I'm sure the listeners would also like to know, could you tell us of any experience? I call it, like I use the example every time that my son says, I'm a failure, or failure it's a bruise. It's not a tattoo. It's not something that scars you forever.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us of any form of failure? Could be at work, life, anything that shows people that you are human and that I'm
Absolutely.
human and they can learn from. What did you learn from it and what can we learn from it?
I think that, when we're looking for a head, luckily we did a dual recruitment, and that's why the head teacher is still here. And, we had this head that we recruited, and I was so excited, but it was such a disaster. And, we had lost money because it was a foreign recruit. And, the term said you had to pay the person back. But it was such a disaster because in the process, it was somebody who was just not a people's person and dogmatic. And, that's one of the mistakes that I feel that I've made in the space. And what I learned from it is to be a bit more intentional when it comes to recruiting the head, because that would set the tone for the school. It can destroy years of work. So I think it's being more intentional. One of the things that I've learned also is that whoever you're bringing in has to come in and interact within the space and see, it may be for them, it may not be for them. But I want to encourage everyone. Everybody goes through a dark moment, and it's only through your dark moments that you're going to know your strength. It's not about knowing weaknesses. Your dark moments pull out your strength. It brings out an innate strength that you did not even know you had. So part of leadership is being calm in the storm. I'm not there yet, but I know my mother, in the middle of the storm, she had faith about everything, and it was almost scary. So you learn that this too shall pass. So I think that is, one thing I can say. And then I think another thing that I would say is that over time, I've learned for my behavior to be a bit more flexible, like I said earlier, because that is how you reach your objective. You have to be a bit more flexible, because if you're not flexible, you cannot reach your objective. So you have to be a bit more flexible. So those are some of the lessons I've learned, because we've survived some things. During COVID, we all thought it was over, but it was amazing. It was amazing understanding that this too shall pass, and how creative one could be. And, you just see the strength that can come out, because there's a particular employee, and my mother has said, I cannot lay him off. He's been with her since she started 33 years ago. And during COVID, he just could not get technology together. So one of the things I had said, okay, I'm not going to get rid of him, is that we just did one-on-one with him as far as technology empowerment. And it was amazing. He became the best in technology.
Whoa.
So, when you look at your dark moments will come for any leader. So it's just a matter of understanding that this too will pass. Face your journey. Your journey is completely different to somebody else's journey. And less dark moments will come when you're in competition with other people in your space. Work towards collaboration rather than competition.
This is beautiful. Lovely, lovely, lovely. You talked about when you hired that lady, and something we mentioned yesterday too, and which I have also learned along the line is, when we hire, even in running our businesses, when we start, either you're starting afresh or you are hiring, it's all a hypothesis. You are testing, as you are hypothesizing with that person you are bringing in, that person too is a hypothesis. Will it fit?
Absolutely.
Is it a good fit? So it's actually just a test. So if it does not work, it's not failure. We just know that is a test that really has to be tweaked, discarded.
Absolutely.
Whatever. So we hypothesize in hiring, in setting up our businesses. We keep tweaking, running tests until, yes, we know we've gotten it right. That's beautiful. And then the resilience you've built over the years. They're being flexible and adaptable. 21st century skill. Can you imagine if you had fired that gentleman? Thank you, ma.
Yes.
Still on, ma, for helping Funke. So a bit more flexible. And now the guy is one of the best in your company, you know, and you've kept him. And I'm sure that's actually a motivation, even for your staff, that you're not just going to fire somebody who's been there for 33 years just because the person doesn't know something. So I'm sure you've been able to also, every dark season will pass. Thank you so much for that. Can I just have the claps in the chat box right now? The claps and the flowers and the, yeah, thumbs up. Thank you so, so, so much. So before we take a few questions, I'd like to also, you know, just talk about this mastermind that I've organized. A lot of people have asked, how do you actually do? We all have an idea. Okay, succession planning. Okay, developing a leadership pipeline. How do you go about it? And that's what the mastermind is about. It goes from, we know that succession planning, developing a leadership pipeline, it's all within talent management. How do we manage our talents? How do we attract the right talents? How do we develop them? How do we retain them? And then how do we prepare them for succession? So it's a mastermind that I've organized. I think there's a link where you can book for a call to learn more about this mastermind. It's going to help us set up our systems, succession management teams, and everything, our competency-based tests, everything we need to do, line upon line, precept upon precept, in developing our succession plan. So please book the call, and we will, the next thing, we've heard all the speakers, it's now for us to do the work. And the succession of the program, the mastermind, is for 8 weeks, and we're going to go through everything, look at case studies, do projects. It's just an amazing thing I've put together. I hope to see you all there. So we're going to take some questions, Mrs. Fowler-Amba, before you leave. Let's see. Let me see some of the questions in the Q&A section. So I see, looking at the way things work, would you like any of your children to take over from you? Any succession plan in terms of family? That's for you first.
It's a family business. And I want to say something. Many people see succession that your children have to take over. Speaking from a business point of view, your legacy can continue. You can sell your business as long as it's not 50-50 and you have a higher portion, because the reality is this: only 3% of businesses move on to the next generation because they feel your children have to take over. Your children don't have to take over. Even when you're negotiating in your contract, your name can still be a legacy whereby other people are running. So I want us to get away from the fact that if your children are not interested, that your legacy does not continue. It's about having a good board. We have to get away from a cultural thing where we feel that names direct our boards. You need people who have passion, who will keep the business running. You can have a CEO. So even if children are, I'm lucky that it's a business, it's a family business. I have nieces, I have nephews, because the reality is that even if a child is not interested, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren could be interested. So the whole point is to make sure you have these leadership pipelines and you have a leadership-driven company, so that when succession comes in, your company is still running. And if somebody along the line is interested, they can go ahead and continue the legacy.
I think that's a beautiful answer, because what happens, as you said, is we feel, my child has to take over. I don't believe in it at all.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the children are not ready. They're not interested. You can't force them, But then when you have developed leaders, I'll use my organization. So Meadowhall is a group. because it's a group, and it's not a group of schools, it's the group of companies. So we have the impact-led parts of the school or of the group, which is education driven. There are other subsidiaries. We have an edutainment company, we have a resource company, we have a bakery, we have so many other companies by the side. So there's a parent company that's the group. My son happens to be interested because he studied management. And so we'll be talking to him on Friday, I believe. He studied management. He's a guru with HR, all this other aspect. Again, he had to go through the job rotation, cross functions. So he's good for that. But my succession for the school is not my child, not any of my children. I have my head of school who is the successor in that regard. She's not family, but she's someone that is not just a motivated staff, she's an engaged staff. She's emotionally, psychologically in line, in tune with what the school is about. So I totally agree. We need to begin to move away from this idea. And the board, oftentimes in schools, we just have a school governing board, parent. Do we have a proper corporate board?
Absolutely.
Herbert Wigwe is gone, but the university will continue because of the caliber of people, not because of the name, the people which go to place. So I think it's something that we need to. So that's the answer to that. Please, in fact, I have a daughter, and when I say school, she's like, she starts laughing. That who's running the school? I'm like, I don't need you. We always laugh over it. Another question is, senior leaders in my school do not mentor and develop potential successors. They expect you to bring in some sort of magic or an A game almost immediately without any lead, or even give you some tips on how to go about it, but leave you to go about it in a short space of time. How do you excel in this way? I'm not going, I will answer that, Funke. So basically, I will tell you, the lady who is asking, I understand where that person is coming from. I also fell into that. It's a wrong way of thinking. But immediately, I think what you should tell your boss is, let them understand. The recording of this will be out by next week on YouTube. Get them to understand. We do it all the time. We put people in positions and we have not equipped them for, and then we hold them accountable for it. I have been there. So it's a mistake we all make, or most of us make, but then we can redress it. Let us understand that when you put people in positions, you must equip them. When you're planning for succession, people for your potential successors, it takes 1 to 3 years, by the way. It's not something that just happens. It takes a good 1 to 3 years to prepare people for the new role. So it takes time, and we must, as leaders, as owners, understand that. Now, another person says, my boss is over.
Sorry, if I can also add, a lot of us do not have role profiles, and we don't have clear visions for our leaders. So we need to also work to ensure that we have a clear vision. What is their role? What is their role profile? What are they supposed to do? So in the process, that makes them understand that they're empowering others, they're impacting other people's growth.
Beautiful, beautiful. Understanding the roles, the profile for the roles, the positions, key positions, who are the kind of people you're looking for, for those positions, understanding your team. What are their strengths? What are the gaps in the skills they need in order to fill up the positions that exist? Beautiful. Okay, this person, my boss is over 80 years. He still wants to make all the decisions. As a result, entire system is structureless. Some opportunities that were there with him at the outset of the advantage, they get anyway. I think it's very frustrating for this person because the boss has refused to bow out, and I think Chief Leela Fowler would have been a good one to answer this. The other day we were talking, I think it was Ndidi. One of the things she said, In planning succession, we must have humility. She said every leader must know when it's time to bow out. Every leader must know when it's time to let other people shine. That's what she said. Now, this is what this person is saying is a problem. What would be your advice, Funke, to this person? I'll just take just one more question after this, and then we'll call it a day. What's the advice? What does this person? The person is so frustrated.
Like I said, because the person owns the business and the person has not run the business as a business, so it's difficult to bow out. Now, it is also important to understand the space where you are. Are you growing? There's no need being frustrated and then you are not growing and then your workable years have not been developed. So if this is their vision, you have to respect their vision. Every leader has a vision, and the vision may not include understanding when their season is over, and the vision may not include preparing some kind of succession plan, because people have to understand something. Succession is very emotional. People don't like talking about it because it more or less signifies that your career is ending. And many people do not, my mother is 91. I respect it's her baby. So we still talk about her baby because it's her baby and it will always be her baby. But she's understood that, she has to give this baby up for adoption for now. So I think that in the case of that person, there isn't much you can do because the person's leadership vision does not accommodate what you're looking for.
So very true. Someone put out there that succession is like talking about wills and insurance.
Absolutely.
And it is Absolutely. So true. But you know what? The way I sell succession plans to people, which is how I would sell it to that owner or that person, is succession planning is not only about that person at the top, at the helm of affairs. Succession planning is for key positions and key roles.
Absolutely.
David Archer of the Harvard Business School says, succession planning is as important, if not more important, than your corporate strategy. So it is just letting that owner understand. It's not even about your position. It's about the head of technology in your company. If the person goes, what's going to happen? If the head of operations, so identifying, as we said, the key roles. So every organization, every owner, every leader should, I do not quite accept that it's okay for that not being part of the vision.
No. Maybe what I'm saying is I thought you were talking about the person. The person.
Oh, no, not just the person.
Oh, sorry. No. If it's for the owner, it's compulsory that it has, because if not, your legacy will die.
Die.
Yes, your legacy will die. If we're speaking to the owner has to understand that there's nothing worse than working so hard and understanding that your years of labor does not have any form of continuity and it's gone to waste. So if we're speaking to the owner of the business, it is crucial, because I say to everyone, if you own a business, even if you're 20 years old and you have investment in it, everybody must have a power of attorney. Because if you're a leader, you don't have a power of attorney, you break your leg and you have to go into surgery, what happens to your paychecks at the end of the month? So it is important that everybody understands that succession is not giving you some kind of cancer treatment.
Exactly.
It is just to empower you so that you can enjoy the business as well.
It's so key. Honestly, it's so key. I talk about the fact that, to the glory of God, I've been able to pivot. Right now, I'm pivoting into focusing on leadership because my companies are well led. I have leaders I've empowered. who I've given autonomy to. Sometimes we're empowered, but we don't give autonomy. So we can't pivot. We keep it small. You remain small. You can't expand. You can't express yourself in so many other areas that you've been blessed with because you're hoarding it and holding it on.
Absolutely.
It's just so I don't get it, but I've been there. So I know why sometimes it's a bit of a struggle. So yes, said guided autonomy. Yes, but autonomy all the same. And when you say guided autonomy, there's a way you give autonomy, right? Is you start asking a leader when I'm grooming my leaders, right? When there are issues, they come to me. I use the coaching skills method. I use the coaching style. When you come to me to answer anything, the first thing I say, what do you think? And then when you tell me what you think, I then ask you a follow-up question. And that's what you do until the person gets it. As we would with the children, it is not what you tell somebody. It is what they understand, constructing their own understanding. That is what helps them. So guided, you begin to train them. Thereafter, you let them take on more until you're able to say, you know what, you get on with it. I'm alive and well. Call me. Still hold your meetings with them. As Funke said, she still meets with mom. I still have constant meetings where we discuss things. So you're not handing off, you know. So it's just very interesting. It's leadership is so I just love it. And I feel that a lot of us we focus a lot on our technical areas. We don't do enough on developing our leadership skills. All right. Thank you all. I hope you have learned. Another round of applause for Funke Fowler-Amba. Yes, yes. Let me see the claps. Let me see the claps. Amazing session. Amazing. Funke, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I also learned a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
So much. Bless you. Bye. Greetings to
Bye.
mom. Bye-bye, Ma. If you're still there, Ma. Yeah,
She's still there. She's still there.
I remember her 90th. I couldn't make it. I would have loved to meet her.
Thank you so much for having me. God bless.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye.